Throughout the course of history, many people have claimed fraudulently to be displaced monarchs or heirs who had disappeared or supposedly died under mysterious circumstances. Following the execution of the Russian imperial family, the House of Romanov, at the hands of a firing squad led by Yakov Yurovsky on the 17th of July 1918, several impostors began to appear in public, coming forward claiming to be members of the deposed imperial family or their descendants. According to various calculations, there have been around 230 Romanov impostors across the world who have enjoyed a degree of success as a result of such claims. Although the motivations and backgrounds of such people have varied, their number has included individuals with significant interpersonal problems. Many impostors did not appear to come from a good life and were largely adventurers or people who wished to gain any privileges or claimed kinship with the royal family. In May 1979, the remains of most of the Russian royal family and their retainers were found by amateur enthusiasts, who kept the discovery secret until the latter days of the Soviet Union. In July 1991, the bodies of 5 family members including the Tsar, Tsarina, and 3 of their 4 daughters, were exhumed. After forensic examination and DNA identification, the bodies were laid to rest with state honors in the St. Catherine Chapel of the Peter and Paul Cathedral in St. Petersburg, where most other Russian monarchs since Peter the Great lie. For decades, conspiracy theorists suggested that one or more of the family somehow survived the massacre. The discovery of only 5 members of the Russian imperial family served to encourage these conspiracy theories. However, eventually on August 23, 2007, the last 2 missing bodies were discovered, finally putting the imperial family to rest. In this video, we will be exploring the tale of a larger-than-life character who in the aftermath of the death of the Russian imperial family, fabricated a Romanov identity as a means to rub shoulders with Hollywood's A-list stars, and not only creating a persona, but creating an entire restaurant built around it, which would be regarded as among the finest in Beverly Hills. This is the story of Hershel Geguzin, or as he would be better known, Prince Michael Dimitri Alexandrovich Obolensky-Romanoff. In December 1940, a new restaurant opened upon Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills. However, this would be no ordinary dining establishment. Sitting southwest of the Hollywood Hills, Romanoff's restaurant was run by a larger-than-life character who was certainly not out of place in the fantasyland of Tinseltown. In fact, the so-called Prince Michael Dimitri Alexandrovich Obolensky-Romanoff was no stranger to the silver screen, appearing in no less than 18 movies in a variety of roles, including playing himself in some of them. In 1932, the New Yorker magazine ran a series of 5 profiles which traced Romanoff's life history from his birth until the date of the magazine's publication, noting in October that he had been deported to France 5 months earlier to serve time for fraud. Romanov, or Obolensky-Romanoff, had initially gone by the name of Hershel Geguzin after he disembarked from a Lithuanian ship in New York City during the year 1900, when he was around 10 years of age, although his actual birth name was believed to have been Hershel Geguzin. If all these names are causing you some confusion already, I'm sorry to say he used even more whenever it suited him, most notably using the title of Count Gladstone, supposedly in an attempt to pass himself off as the son of former British Prime Minister William Gladstone to whoever would listen. However, it would ultimately be the Romanov name that he would finally adopt. Unlike the other impostors we have covered here thus far, the so-called Prince Michael Dimitri Alexandrovich Obolensky-Romanoff claimed not to be a descendant of Nicholas II, but instead claimed to be his nephew, although he was never publicly explicit in naming which of the Romanov siblings he was a descendant of. Although this so-called Prince Michael pretended to be the descendant of Russian royalty, journalists Jack La and Lee Mortimer made the claim in their 1952 book USA Confidential that Gerguson had previously been a pants presser in Brooklyn. However, with his old-world manners, impeccable though fake Oxford accent, mustache, and walking stick, Gerguson, or Obolensky-Romanoff, charmed his way into the bright lights of Hollywood society and made his mark among Tinseltown's movers and shakers. He became a much sought-after figure and attended polo matches. As well as this, when Hollywood filmmakers needed a technical advisor for a movie set in Europe, Romanov, in quotation marks, claimed to be an expert and drew a comfortable salary. However, it could be said that most of those connected to Gerguson were familiar with his Romanov gimmick, and if anything, it was part of his appeal in Hollywood. This appeal was also bolstered by a sense of mystery surrounding the history of this so-called Prince Michael. Apparently, he had asked the actor David Niven to send his regards to Major General Sir Robert Laycock, who was a senior British Army officer best known for his influential role in the establishment and command of British commandos during the Second World War. After Niven dismissed Gerguson's claims to have known Laycock, the false prince showed Niven a set of hairbrushes which featured the Laycock crest. After asking him how he managed to come into possession of the brushes, Niven learned that Gerguson, or Obolensky-Romanoff, had taken part in a cricket match involving a coal mining team in the English village of Wiston, Nottinghamshire, which was Laycock's hometown. To make matters even more bizarre, the false prince may have also been a coal miner in Durham for a period of time, and could have been part of a visiting team to Nottinghamshire. As well as this, U.S. immigration files also have a record of Harry Gerguson escaping from a hospital in 1923. With his sterling connections and incomparable personal skills, Gerguson, masquerading as Prince Michael, secured backing from the likes of Cary Grant, Jack Warner, Jock Whitney, Cesar Romero, and Robert Benchley for a Romanov-themed restaurant in Beverly Hills. Although Gerguson's Romanov claims were phony, his restaurant certainly wasn't, and the cuisine which was on offer was regarded as among the finest in Beverly Hills. The prices were high, but his customers were more than happy to pay, with the restaurant running a packed house with big-name Hollywood stars such as Marilyn Monroe, Clark Gable, and Cary Grant among the diners. As well as this, Humphrey Bogart was one of the restaurant's most famous and frequent diners, and he had a favorite booth which he frequently sat in. Romanovs had a strict rule which stipulated that all diners must wear ties, but Bogart frequently insisted on coming in without wearing one. Finally, Gerguson, or Obolensky-Romanoff, had a showdown with Bogart. However, when Bogart returned the following evening wearing a bow tie in protest, Gerguson was forced to go on his word, as he had never considered bow ties, and thus had to concede the point to Bogart. By the 1950s, Gerguson sought to expand his business and decided to move his restaurant from 325 North Rodeo Drive to 140 South Rodeo. At first, the move appeared to go well. The new location featured a roof garden and a ballroom for private parties, as well as a private dining room for VIP guests and a larger main dining room containing 24 booths to keep up with the ongoing demand. However, by the end of the 1950s, the restaurant saw its customer base dwindle and the dining room appeared more and more empty. One possible contributing factor to the restaurant's decline may have been Gerguson, or Obolensky-Romanoff's increasing involvement in conservative politics, making friends with FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover and handing out right-wing literature alongside the menus. Such actions, alongside the fact that he was very vocal about his beliefs, did not sit well with a new generation of Hollywood stars, who opted to take their business elsewhere. To add fuel to the fire, Gerguson had also managed to fall out with a number of his older long-standing patrons, who likewise decided to take their business elsewhere. By the turn of the 1960s, the restaurant's continued decline left empty tables and unpaid bills, and the writing was on the wall. On New Year's Eve in 1962, Romanoff's restaurant closed its doors for good. From a culinary perspective, the restaurant featured a typical country club-style menu with items like Waldorf salad, tomatoes stuffed with crab, frog legs, eggs Benedict and sausages on toast. As well as this, the restaurant became known for its chocolate soufflés, which were served to each guest in an individual portion. Noodles Romanoff, which has some similarities to beef stroganoff, is a dish made of egg noodles, sour cream, and grated Parmesan cheese that originally appeared at Romanoff's in the mid-1950s, and became a popular menu item often mentioned in Hollywood reporting. Later, after Romanovs went out of business, the dish was served at the Top of the Rock restaurant in Chicago before becoming a popular side dish on American dinner tables throughout the 1960s. As for Romanov himself, he continued to play the role and maintained a presence as a minor celebrity following the closure of his restaurant, making a number of small, mostly uncredited appearances in a number of Hollywood films throughout the 1960s before his death in California in 1971, passing away due to a heart attack at the age of 81. Although Gerguson's Romanov claims were not taken seriously, it was possible this may have been the point, so much so that he was compared to Santa Claus in the original 1947 version of Miracle on 34th Street. However, in an age when Romanov claims were in vogue, it's understandable why a newly opened Russian restaurant took advantage of this, complete with a patron who was not so much of a Romanov impostor in a literal sense, but more of an actor playing the role of an impostor, adding both an alluring sense of mystery and a touch of Tinseltown fantasy which appealed to an A-list Hollywood clientele at the time.